The truth about Don Quixote Rocinante is finally revealed in this week's episode of One Piece. Something I noticed while watching this week's episode is that in the One Piece world, doctors have the ugliest freaking nurses in the world. Seriously, the nurses in the One Piece universe are soulless, misinformed, troll-like women. Did you see that first one? I didn't know whether to smile or kick a field goal. They got fancy doctors, but not fancy dentists. This week's episode did a really great job of showing the extreme differences in Doflamingo and his brother Rocinante. Whereas Doflamingo is this evil, heartless, monster-like being, Rocinante is incredibly compassionate, looking out for the best interests of others. He also happens to be a double agent who's working for the Marines, directly under Admiral Sengoku, and of course his goat and afro. I love series like One Piece. They allow me to actually talk about goats and afros all in the same sentence. While at the same time you also have Virgo, who's infiltrating the Marines, and still getting shit stuck to his face. We also get to learn in this week's episode that Rocinante has a really cool Devil Fruit ability. It's not exactly a big, powerful fighting ability, but it perfectly goes in line with his ability to be silent all the time, and that's because he's a silent man. He has no more sound. That's because he can create these barriers or these walls, these big bubbles, which actually allow him to contain all the noise in a small space, and you can't hear anything outside the bubble. This allows him to infiltrate and to sneak into places really, really cool way. It also allows him to have a lot of really key conversations with Law this week when he reveals everything about him and how he's been looking out for his brother, because frankly he knows that his brother is completely batshit insane and he doesn't want him to go on like a massacring rampage. But, unfortunately for him, Law decides to run away and he threatens Corazon by telling him that he's going to tell Doflamingo everything, but he also remembers the time that Corazon was silent after all the times Law tried to attack him, so he decides to give him a freebie on this one. However, Corazon decides to take advantage of this situation. He kidnaps Law and he decides to go around the world trying to find the best hospital that he can so that he can heal Law, all because he feels sorry for him. And he really cares about this kid. He's climbing snowy mountains. He's literally blowing up hospitals. But those doctors had it coming. The minute they hear white lead disease, they start freaking out, their nurses start pissing their pants, and this just pisses off Corazon even more, so he decides to punch doctors and blow up hospitals. I think the best moment of the episode by far is when both Law and Corazon are actually hanging out at the edge of this cliff, and then Corazon just suddenly breaks into tears when he realizes that he feels sorry for Law, and he feels really bad because since they've been going to all of these hospitals, he's been sort of forcibly, like, having him relive all of the tragic moments from the town of Flevance. Before we get to the next part of Law and Corazon's story, we do cut back to the present, and we actually get some very small but short action scenes of Law fighting against Doflamingo, which honestly was pretty awesome. I was glad that they at least included an action scene in this week's episode, because no offense to Rocinante or anything, I mean, his Devil Fruit powers are not meant for battle, and he's clearly not exactly a fighter. I mean, Law makes him look like a chump this week, especially when he tosses him into the garbage. And then after that, you have Luffy, who is still fighting against Bellamy and the clone of Doflamingo, and then it all ends right there with a to-be-continued screen. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? Lots of big revelations in this week's episode, especially about Corazon actually working for the Marines. He's actually Commander Don Quixote Rocinante, which sounds really awesome when you say it out loud. But then, of course, there was all the little cameos this week. I loved seeing Admiral Sengoku again, and Virgo showing up at the most inopportune time. After he's talking to his double agent, the other double agent walks into the frickin' office of the head of the frickin' Marines. That's pretty frickin' great right there. But all of the scenes with Corazon and Law just traveling around the world and them just sort of getting to know each other a lot more, you can now really understand why Law really respects Rocinante so much more after this, especially when he hears him pour his heart out to him when they were going to sleep that one night. It was a really well done scene, and it just really shows how different Doflamingo and Rocinante really are. They are complete opposites of one another in every single way, and of course there's also the thing about the D. Apparently that's something that's going to anger God or provoke God. That might actually be the Celestial Dragons, and it almost seems like they might be the natural enemy of them, and they might even bring about the destruction of the world. Does the D stand for destruction? I actually think so, and that sounds pretty awesome. Monkey Destruction Luffy. All in all, though, I have to say that this was a surprisingly heartwarming episode of One Piece. It was a great introduction to the real character of Corazon, just getting to learn a little bit more about him and how he developed his relationship with Law. There was a few action scenes at the end. There was a little bit of tenseness with Corazon thinking that maybe Doflamingo was going to figure out what's going on with him. overall this was a pretty good episode. Nothing too mind-blowing, but a lot of important information that any One Piece fan should definitely check out, especially if you're watching the anime version. But if you just read the manga, I'd still suggest checking out this episode. I think the voice acting is really good, especially on Corazon's part. I've already mentioned it in my previous review. The voice actor for him is actually the same voice actor of Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, and he's doing a really great job in One Piece right now. And on the technical side of things, just animation, artwork, everything looked pretty good this week. Nothing groundbreaking, just a nice, solid-looking episode of One Piece. But no real big action scenes yet. We're still getting the build-up to that. Once we finish up with this Lost storyline, we can go back to the crazy action that is Dressrosa. Overall, this was still a fantastic episode, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Check it out, One Piece fans. It was a pretty great episode. You guys heard my thoughts, but I want to hear yours. What did you think about this week's episode of One Piece? Please tell me in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of the Dressrosa arc. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like this video, share it with all your friends, and make sure to subscribe to our channel so you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews, and follow us on social media. You guys should also check out our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. It's pretty freaking awesome. Both me and Christian host that. We occasionally have guests, and you can check out that show, of course, on our YouTube channel, but you can also download the show for free on iTunes and at Rogue Intel. I will put links for those in the description box below, and we would really appreciate it if you guys go to iTunes, if you could give us a rating, and maybe even write out a review if you have the time. But as always, the best way to support Super Kami Guru 9000 is to comment on the videos, subscribe to the channel, and share these videos with your friends. So thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!